in the political system. Joining me now is Hayes Brown, opinion writer and editor for MSNBC Daily Newsletter, and Steve Bannon, a producer for The Rachel Maddow Show and an MSNBC political contributor and author of the book, The Imposters, How Republicans Quit Governing and Seized American Politics. Good morning to both of you. Thank you for being with us. Steve, Marjorie Taylor Greene is facing quite a bit of pushback from her allies and others in the Republican Party, or at the very least, many seem reluctant to publicly support her effort to oust Mike Johnson. Talk to me about why she's moving forward with this plan to tear down her own party speaker.
Right, in the abstract, you would think that Marjorie Taylor Greene would back down. She's facing all kinds of pressure from conservative media, from Republican senators, from her own colleagues in the House. And so common sense might say, well, the smart move for her would be to listen to all these folks and to back down. But she's not doing that, and I think there are three reasons why. The first is I think that it's important to realize she's backed herself into a corner. She'll look bad if she goes through with this, but on the other hand, if she backs down, she looks weak. And so I think she's looking to avoid that, which is one of the reasons she's moving forward. In addition to that, I think there's also a dynamic in which the Republican base often likes people who fight even when they know that they're going to lose that fight. That there's this urge among rank-and-file conservatives that they want to see the effort. They want to see the fight for the sake of the fight, even if the outcome is predetermined. In addition to that, I think Greene is of the opinion, I think she's wrong, but she's of the opinion that there's going to be a backlash from the Democratic base. If Democratic members vote in large number, and I think they will, to save Speaker Johnson, that somehow the far-left base and far-left activists will rebel against Democrats in an election year, and that will ultimately hurt Democrats if they proceed in that course. I think that's a mistake, that assumption. I think that in large part, the Democratic base realizes that they understand why the party is going along with this. But nevertheless, when we look at why Greene is doing this, I think that's a key fact.
So let's examine that particular issue, Hayes. There is an election exactly 6 months away. People aren't just going to be voting for the president. These House members are all up for re-election, too. Let's think about that. This issue that Steve raises. There are a few Democrats who have expressed dissatisfaction with the decision to keep Mike Johnson alive. But fundamentally, do Democrats gain more by saying, look, the business of the country needs to get done? The Republicans are a complete junkyard of a mess. So why don't we not contribute more to this?
No, I think that you're right there. I think that anyone who is unwilling to go ahead and help out with this vote for Mike Johnson, I feel like they're probably in a very safe district. I think that if you are a Democrat who is in a swing district, as few as there are these days swing districts, then you are looking at this issue very pragmatically. You're looking be able to say, we are the party who is actually able to govern. We are the party who is actually able to put aside petty differences and make sure something happens. I think that any sort of backlash among Democrats is probably going to be among the more progressive members who are saying, look, why don't we just try to shoot our shot, get Hakeem Johnson actually in as speaker? The counter to that is that in leveraging Democratic votes yet again to help out Mike Johnson, I think that this clears the way for a stronger Democratic hand as they try to keep Republicans from pushing forward more cuts in the negotiations for fiscal year 2025, which is what should be happening in Congress this summer. They are preparing to fund the government for next year, which the timeline gets weird when you see how much things get pushed back in Congress. Like this year's federal funding didn't pass until March, thanks to chaos amongst the Republicans. So to keep Johnson in place, Democrats are hopefully going to use that leverage to say, look, we don't want these sort of insane cuts that you were pushing last year. Let's have a clean, straightforward, negotiation from the start on what the spending levels will be.
Hopeful thinking, if true, Steve, because I know you read everything. There are, as I say, some of these progressive members of the Democratic Party who are underscoring the fact that Mike Johnson is actually ideologically one of the more conservative members of the House, and he is still an election denier. So the idea that Democrats might not just be keeping the business of government going, but might be, I don't know if you want to, I don't want to put words in Hayes' mouth, but currying some favor or gathering a chit for something that they could use later. There are some Democrats who say not worth making a deal with the devil.
Yeah, and they have a point. I mean, let's be clear about this. Mike Johnson is not a moderate. I mean, he is not only further to the right than Kevin McCarthy, his immediate predecessor. Mike Johnson is the most far-right speaker in modern American history. So at that point, why in the world would Democrats go along with saving him? And I think that we know the answer. For one thing, there's a devil you know versus the devil you know problem kicking in. They realize that if they replace, they have the votes to replace Mike Johnson. But if they do, would his successor be worse? And I think the answer is probably yes. And so that calculus makes sense. Secondly, we'll have to look at recent history. We look at the last several months. Mike Johnson has repeatedly turned to Democrats to advance key legislation, including the Ukraine aid. And so that is an important element for them when they're making this decision. And as Hayes just noted, there's leverage coming up. I mean, we have votes on FAA reauthorization. There's going to be votes on Key Bridge. There's going to be votes on fiscal year 2025. And if they can leverage this vote to gain an advantage, then ultimately that works in Democrats' favor.
Hayes, I am conscious of the fact that there are many people who are worried about sort of democracy and how the next election goes, not from a horse race perspective, not from a polling perspective, but really from a substantive perspective. So I worry about bringing this topic up. But this gathering of Republicans in Florida right now underscores one thing, and that is that the unofficial race for vice presidential candidate for the Republican Party is on. A handful of people who want to be Trump's running mate are down in Florida and this weekend basically auditioning for Trump. What's your sense of how this goes and whether it even matters who Donald Trump's running mate is?
I mean, Donald Trump's running mate matters in the way that it always matters, which is if he is unable for whatever reason to fulfill the duties of president, who is going to step in? I think that when you look back, though, at 2016, the idea of Mike Pence being in there as a backup to Trump, as being a sort of yes man to him, that I think should weigh heavily in our minds. We should be thinking about, yes, this person could become president, but also who is going to enable him the most? Who is going to say, yeah, you know what, you're right. Who's not going to push back on him when he is trying to do unconstitutional things? Like, who is going to be in the room to say, no, I don't think that's right? And given what we've seen, all the reporting, there's not going to be many of those people. None of the people who you just showed on screen are going to be that person. So on that level, it doesn't really matter who he picks amongst this crew. There's going to be very few of them who are going to have anything substantive to say, to contribute to the administration that he is going to be running. There are some who are definitely worse than others. I'll give you that. Some who will be more chaotic, more viscerally opposed to the actual action of governing. But I think that as far as like who is going to be the top choice, that is honestly going to be up to Trump. And we're not going to know until he makes that pick.
Yeah, and nobody's asking us for advice on it anyway. Guys, thanks very much. Hayes Brown is an opinion writer and the editor of MSNBC Daily. Steve Bannon is a producer on The Rachel Maddow Show and an MSNBC political contributor. He's the author of The Imposters, How Republicans Quit Governing and Seized American Politics. Thank you to both of you gentlemen. Coming up, Donald Trump may be forced to split his time between campaigning for president and falling asleep in criminal court, but he's got a whole team making anti-democratic plans on his behalf. Exactly what they are up to and why they are plotting this so openly, coming up.
It's Ford SUV season. Time to get out there and take on adventure in a whole new way. Start with great offers on Ford Bronco and Bronco Sport. All equipped with 4x4 capability and with the help of GOAT modes to go over any type of terrain. Your adventure starts with an exciting Bronco lineup at your local Ford dealer. It's Ford SUV season. Let's get going.
See, Home Quote Explorer lets you easily compare home insurance options so you can get what you need without overpaying.
Yeah, we spent a lot on this kitchen.
Oh, yeah, really high-end stuff.
Sorry, that's our ghost.
Yeah, okay.
It's more annoying than anything.
Too bad there's mold behind the backsplash. Yep, there's mold.
Well then, let's see if we can save you some money with Progressive.
Guess how much I originally paid for this fireplace? $23. Materials and labor.
Just ignore him.
You got bamboozled.
This is Rochelle, who gives you a shot. Rebecca is there when you feel not so hot. This is Larissa. Vanessa, who's feeling grown up. And this here is Winnie, who zhuzhed up their cup. This is Victoria, helping women stay healthy. These are your kids, snacking snacks made with veggies. And Maddie can help you find your new favorite color. And Kyle helps find meds for under $10. Whoever you are, wherever, whenever. At CVS, healthier happens together.
Rich, indulgent chocolate with a luscious caramel filling. Discover Ghirardelli caramel squares in a bag and a bar. Makes life a bite better.
Home Goods. Go finding.
Tobacco companies target people like me with their menthol cigarette marketing. Realizing this made me angry enough to quit. My tip is, this should make everyone angry.
You can quit. For free help, text QUIT NOW to 333-888.
Tommy John is for men who value themselves and their comfort, who want fabrics that are lightweight, breathable, and insanely soft, with stay-put waistbands that adapt for the perfect fit. 360-degree stretch prevents ride-up and supports any move you make, and mind-blowing innovations like our Quick Draw Fly. We've also reinvented loungewear. Yeah, loungewear. You can trust our thousands of 5-star reviews, because Tommy John knows how comfortable you want to be.
Go to TommyJohn.com for 25% off site-wide.
Introducing the Core Collection from Vuori, featuring the ultra-soft, lightweight core short and jogger, both with a breathable boxer brief liner that ensures all-day comfort. Constructed with performance stretch fabric for ultimate freedom of movement and moisture-wicking technology that keeps you fresh during the toughest workouts. Basically, it's magic. Go commando in confidence with the Core Collection from Vuori.
We have officially begun the first criminal trial of a former president of the United States.
The Biden campaign arguing Biden is focused on the voters while Donald Trump is focused only on himself.
34 felony counts of falsifying business records in order to commit or conceal another crime.
Why do you think the president is having trouble with younger voters?
She was just dismissed as a potential juror. What happened? Why were you dismissed?
What are the issues that motivate you the most?
Donald Trump, the presumptive GOP nominee for president, hasn't had a ton of time to campaign in the last 4 weeks. He's been sitting in a Manhattan courtroom for his criminal hush money trial. But this weekend, he did attend the Republican National Committee's spring donor retreat, which was conveniently held at his Mar-a-Lago club in Florida. According to NBC News reporting, at the private event yesterday, Trump compared the Biden administration to the secret police force of Nazi Germany. According to audio of the luncheon provided to NBC News, Trump said, quote, "These people are running a Gestapo administration," adding, "Once I got indicted, I said, well, now the gloves have to come off," end quote. Off in another room, Trump's campaign team was delivering a closed-door presentation to donors. They were confident that they can flip Democratic strongholds in Minnesota and Virginia to the Trump column in November. This plan of action from Team Trump comes as Biden's reelection team says it's eyeing North Carolina and Florida, 2 states where Republicans have won in several consecutive presidential elections. Joining me now from Florida is NBC News correspondent Dasha Burns. Dasha, good morning.